This is gonna stop me.
Get a good time.
Okay, so we're good.
Alright, so it's 8:20, we'll call the meeting to order. Start with the reading of the mission statement. The mission of the County of Lewis IDA is to stabilize, strengthen and grow communities through strategic community partnerships, innovative incentive programs, responsible leverage of our financial resources and thoughtful policy development to advance economic growth and a brighter and more inclusive future for. Alright, so I don't believe we have any guests, so where we jump ahead to the,
Oh, yeah, you wanna,
well,
So we did.
yeah. Yeah, so we have Nadine joining us from the law firm and, as you may recall, a few months ago, we had approved that go to the public hearing on the McRes project. Yeah, so now we're at the next step of that. Nadine and take over.
Yeah, so as noted at last month's meeting, we held a public hearing, with nobody in attendance, we held it at the park in Lions Falls. And then subsequently had a communication from the town board, through a board member, but also through the town supervisor. And I kind of lateraled that over to Nadine for a response, and I'll let you take it from there, Nadine.
Sure. So you're jumping out of the agenda?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. So we'll do the seeker first. And the town of Lionsdale, town board did the seeker review for this project. So the IDA is, as they're an involved agency, is just accepting the town board's determination for seeker, which was unlisted. So that's this first resolution for you.
and this is standard procedure that we.
Correct.
That to accept the
Correct.
municipalities determination on the seeker,
Yep.
so.
And they issued a neg deck.
Yeah. We'll need a roll call vote on this.
Yeah, you need a first and a second.
Yeah, sorry. Motion made by Mackenzie, second by Jerry. Any discussion? Alright, so roll call, Darlene,
yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Jerry, Goggin, Joe, yes. Excuse me, Herb excused, and Jessica excused.
Are they absent or they're not?
They're absent.
Okay,
They weren't able to attend today.
okay.
So nothing has changed in the application or in the cost benefit analysis since we first brought this, or since we had the public hearing resolution. You've got those documents in the supporting documents with your board packet. Just in case you wanted to refer back to them, they are there. But no changes to those. Maybe just for clarification, the approving resolution covers the tax incentive, so the pilot and the sales tax abatement, correct?
Correct. And what we have now for that is 200,580 for the sales tax and the real property tax and 48,000 for the sales tax. So the benefits are not really that high. It's like $250,000 for benefits.
Yeah, and that we need to do a separate resolution or separate motion for an installment sale for IDA purchase of equipment that we would lease back, correct?
Yeah, I'm not involved in that part of it. I don't know what that you're the idea is purchasing equipment.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. Is this outside the lease deal?
Yeah,
It's a,
I mean, we've called it a sale leaseback or an installment sale or a variety of things. Usually it is separate from the pilot. I just wanted to clarify.
No, when we do the lease transaction with the IDA, the sales tax and the pilot are all in the same deal. So
Right,
this includes the sales tax benefits and the pilot
for the project,
for the
yes.
project, yes.
Yeah, there's a separate equipment deal.
Okay, all right. So in this separate equipment deal, are they getting sales tax benefit?
The IDA will purchase equipment and then lease it to them. So the IDA will purchase with our tax exempt status.
Okay.
Lease it to them over a course of time. At the end of that period,
Okay, all right,
they own it.
okay.
Okay?
Okay, so we are into the approving resolution now?
Yes, we're on the approving resolution. If
Okay.
you could talk about the comments received and how we respond to that.
Okay, so this authorizes the IDA to enter into all the lease documents, the pilot and the sales tax benefit documents. And also addresses the comments received after the public hearing from the deputy supervisor, I believe, which are attached to the resolution.
You wanna scroll down?
Yeah.
Now statutorily, we can look at her comments and you can discuss them, but we don't need to make a response, but we do in the resolution. But we don't go back and forth with her individually, responses back and forth, because then you just have an endless, nightmare of letters back and forth with clarification and everything. So we address it in the approving resolution. Did you guys all look at all that?
Did you have sufficient
The
time?
responses and everything?
So you do have that, if you have your.
They were attached to the approving resolution. Did you guys discuss them?
it was in the document, so yeah, I think we're just taking a minute, a few folks are. Just reviewing that, so.
Okay,
So they submitted these comments, because they weren't able to attend the public hearing. And so as Diane said, we shared these with Nadine to formulate the responses. There was a question regarding the public hearing and just documenting how we followed our normal procedures to advertise it and after we approved it two months ago. Whenever, a couple months ago at our meeting. So there was I mean, everyone hopefully reviewed them or is reviewing them, and then there was nothing that we felt changed the character of the projects or the incentives. And so we're acknowledging that we received on that, providing answers to their questions, but unless someone has any other comments or concerns, it doesn't change what we're offering for the project.
great. Now, it
Yeah.
sounds like, does the town not really want this project?
The board certainly delayed the process.
Yeah,
For the applicant by a few years, yes. Can you go to exhibit B, Jen, just
Yeah.
so you have the
Is
response?
that up or down?
It's page 10. So yeah, their questions were kind of trying to, questioning the legality of the location of the public hearing and the noticing of it, and so exhibit B kind of
Right.
speak to those points.
Yeah.
And again, over to Nadine to make sure that, yes, we were 100% legal in the way we held it.
Yes. Yes. So, we'll need a first and a second on this as well, and the full roll call vote. Unless you have any, do you have any questions on it or anything?
Anyone need more time or any other questions? A motion by Jerry. Do we have a second? You said Jerry. Oh,
And who
by-
seconded it?
Second by Jessica.
Okay.
She's in minutes now. Any discussion? All right, we'll go through again. Darlene,
Yes.
Mackenzie, Jerry. Gagan,
Yes.
Jessica, Joe, yes, Herb, excused.
Would it make sense for Jessica to vote on the seeker now
Well,
that she's here?
Nadine, Jessica arrived after the seeker vote, do we had,
Okay.
Jessica arrived after the seeker vote, but I mean, we had a quorum of who was in attendance, so. So she's saying not to worry about it,
Yeah, no, I don't think I.
Okay.
Okay, but you voted on the approving resolution.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so any other questions for Nadine?
Well, I have a question, just because she was excused, because you were excused from the one and I'm here for the other, should we make a note? That she arrived late, just in case we don't know where this is gonna go?
Yes, I think that should be reflected in the minutes.
Yes, not that you recused yourself, but that you were
Right.
here and there's a
Yeah,
difference.
and
I don't
we
think-
made a note
Okay.
of that.
I apologize, I didn't do drop off, and the door's
No,
not
I
open
see,
until
you
8:15.
apologize.
Yeah, no, the doors don't open until 8:15,
Yeah.
so.
I just don't wanna create a loophole for somebody.
All right, if there's no other questions for Nadine, then thank you for your work on this, as always, and
Great. Now I'm sure he's very anxious, but is he ready for draft documents? Cheyenne?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Yep,
we'll start drafting those and send them out.
thank you so much.
Okay, you guys have a great day.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
So this proceeds just as.
All right. we'll go back to the beginning of the agenda.
Are you guys prepared to act on the purchase of the equipment for the spec? As long as we're on this topic, or do you want
Oh.
that?
Well, we can. So this is, again, we talked about this a few months ago in terms of the wastewater. Is that what the proper term, wastewater?
The water treatment.
Water
and
treatment.
Equipment associated with that, and he did send me a follow-up letter or email, with a letter attached that kind of details the portion that would be either welded or buried and not easily resold, that's excluded. So we had been considering up to $550,000 purchase for lease back. So that was something.
And again, this follows our standard procedures that we have with other entities out there where we purchase the equipment and they lease it from us over time to help facilitate the project. They're spreading out their cost.
Have you decided the terms of, or is it standard? Isn't it different?
Yeah, layout terms.
I'm just curious, it's fine if you don't.
And again, to Cheyenne's point, one of the things is we don't we lease things that are not easily repossessed or resold if that happened, and so separating out the portions of this project that would be equipment we could purchase and and could be resold if needed versus portions that would not be and that works, but that planning has been done.
I'm assuming the payments begin after place it's going.
Installment sale, not necessarily, I mean, we can do that, I'm sure that would be helpful for him. But it kind of depends on when we purchase it. If it's something that he wants to purchase and install immediately, and this board wants to, give him that time to get up and running, to pay for it. Or if it's something you can install closer to the time of operation. Let me try to find the terms, so. We had.
We hadn't approved that yet, right? We just looked at.
No, we considered it, we had said 5 years at 5%.
Okay.
He, in the letter he wrote, he was trying to, look at equipment over the last 15 years, so we could extend that term to 10 years.
That's a pretty heavy payment.
It is a pretty heavy payment, but it's the largest installment sale that we've
Yeah.
ever done too, so it's a consideration of how long we want to tie up dollars.
Yeah.
And if we're not ready to act on that one today, this one's not as time sensitive as the pilot is, because that one really needs to be approved before you can start.
Would you be able to email us that, the target?
Yeah, I can have an itemized list if that makes everybody more comfortable and things like that one. I don't remember.
Yeah, and did he look at that analysis of the 5-year term and
Yeah.
think that he could make those payments? Well, that's what I'm saying, you don't wanna like.
So,
Right.
if we extend, could you offer 2 options to say 5 years and then a longer term with like maybe a slightly higher interest rate, that would be.
Yeah,
Or we can do amortize it over 10 years for the balloon payment at 5, that way. He has lower payments and then figure out some much funding. I don't know how realistic it would be to get a secondary loan on something like this at the end of 5 years, but.
Well, once he's operational, he will start to be able to take advantage of the tax benefits that he's got through the CFA, so that will help with cash flow significantly, hopefully.
And yeah, I mean, and I. You know, another, not to give them too many scenarios, but another one would be. Delayed at the first payment, but then. You know, but then have it be a shorter term once he starts paying, but delayed that.
Or adjust the payments for the first year. To either interest only or interest in partial principal, and then they increase it year 2. Would be another option, but still keeping it at 5 years. The other question I've got is, did he give us a timeline from time of purchase to time of production?
Not on this equipment for sure, because you can just.
Even just
the deal's getting pushed out, which is somewhat. Because of the delays of the permit, all of that, but some of that is.
Is that a reasonable ask?
No, I think it's very reasonable and.
Because I think it factors into.
Because I don't sales out there in terms of this project, if it's must do towards the beginning of construction or towards the end, so I can find out timelines a little bit better. Like I said, this one's not as time sensitive as the pilot and sales tax incentive was, so November's gonna be fine on this one, so we want to delay it and figure out the best scenario for us. Alright, so you wanna make a motion to table that one?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Harold, a second.
Awesome.
Second. All in favor?
Okay.
Motion carries, thank you. Alright, so now we'll jump back up to the top, with, meeting minutes from the last meeting. Everyone have a chance to review, are there any corrections, comments, questions? Motion to approve by Jerry, second. Darlene, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries, thank you.
You know, we.
Right, financials.
Okay. I think notes here somewhere. Not a ton of activity in the IDA at all in August. Got some interest revenue coming in, so. Which report do you have?
This is Bob.
Okay. Got some interest revenue coming in from Snow Ridge. Still struggling a bit with second place, although we did receive some payments yesterday. And they requested more documentation, so. Struggling to get a meeting, I'd like a sit down meeting with them, but we did receive some payments, so that's positive. We'll continue to work with them and try to get them back up. Back up to current.
Okay.
Yes.
I said we can do like some. I would then say that we're having. Should we see if we want to make sure that everything what we see on can see one thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
You wanna try for me? Sure.
Jessica.
Oh, okay, all right.
Alright, can we scroll down?
Yep.
Minimal expenses, really minimal activity in August. Go ahead. This is our balance sheet. Lots in CDs, so we're gonna have to let one of those CDs mature and expire. I think it's in December in order to purchase the equipment for res. We do have a healthy cash account, but I think it's probably a good idea to let that mature and pull that out. Not a lot of other comments there. You see our Harrisville Bank asset sitting there. Proposals for that building close on the 17th. We've got one in hand already that we're trying to do residential. Just a house, I guess, in the hamlet, and another one that isn't submitted yet, seems really promising. Looks like it would be a commercial space, which would be really nice to offset Stewart's leaving. I mean, Stewart's really downtown for Harrisville, but they have been sliders and the Stewart's building in Harrisville is turning into like insurance building. So that's something that's more of a community asset and I think would be really nice. So she's been working really hard on getting us a proposal and pulling together, probably would be applying for some grants and is working with codes and checking the boxes. So we'll have at least those two, I believe, for that, which is really good if we can get that turned over and having just purchased it on our side, the bill should be pretty easy, right? Okay. Any questions on the balance sheet?
Actually, get that CD with the pending period for re-ups or whatever the terms are.
As you saw, we had zero in liabilities for IDA, which isn't always our favorite place, because that means maybe we're not well leveraged, but for somebody who's that adverse, that's the best place to be. Alright, like I said, we had very little activity in August. You've got $250 there to clean the Harrisville Bank building out, and we had to make a deposit to the village of Lyons Falls to use the pavilion. That's a refundable deposit, so we'll see that come back in. Any questions on the financials?
Motion to approve, Jerry, second by McKenzie, all in favor? Motion carries, thank you. So there was, we had voted a few months ago to change the check signers and head to hand. Did we get the language clarified? So, but I believe it's with Community Bank, we had not officially removed Grid. with the additions we made, so we have. A vote to be reflected in the minutes for the meeting to. For any other, anything else in that.
Can we add, they don't have them as a sign of that, so can we add just to have it as one paper to add and then. like,
First, okay, but so the other one, let's see, wasn't there two names?
For I think it's just me.
Just me.
Okay, that was. Okay, so. Right, so we would need. The minutes to reflect, we'll do two separate motions, one to remove Whitney and then a second to. Provide the language to. For the event potentially. So, I do have a motion to. Motion by Jerry, second by Jessica, any discussion, all in favor? Aye. All right, now,
Make the motion to add.
Darlene makes a motion to add. Julia as our check signer. Again, we have, we have caps in place, so over 5,000 require 2 signatures. Gaggett and I are the other authorized signers. So we'll have Darlene second by Jerry. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
We're having a chance to look at this, okay, so I had a meeting at the county with Craft. And several other stakeholders in the community, and because. So I don't know how much you know about this, but, so the changes in Craft are going to be, instead of Kraft Heinz, there's gonna be like. Grocery, which is like ketchup stuff, like you're never gonna grow ketchup. The use of ketchup is probably never gonna change. But then the other side of the house is where they would invest, because there's potential for growth, like cream cheese and flavors, consistencies, things like that. So fortunately for us. Looks like cream cheese is in that side of the house. So they are working on. Some possibilities to grow Kraft, and I. Don't really know exactly what they are, there's a few things on the table, so it's good news for us. There, people from the. Kraft logo came in, one year was from Australia, some came from. Texas and I don't know where else. So they're very excited about things. We also have had, Lisa has had communication with the HR person at Kraft. And we discovered that kind of an odd thing happened after, it became Kraft Heinz, their phone systems as they previously were disappeared. And they use some sort of, I'm gonna call it like WhatsApp, but like something similar to that. So there really wasn't a way to call Kraft. That's why the communication changed, is what they're saying. But I told them, it doesn't matter how we all got here, moving forward, let's just all work together, and it has in like a week and a half gotten better. So that's good news for us. Hopefully we'll see some changes in the community relationships between Kraft and local areas. I'm also continuing to take a look at it.
Oh, sorry. Before we move on, so they're just, this is very preliminary, so, as most of you recall, we've talked dairy projects for several years. The state's invested in some other areas of dairy, and there's continuing discussions always about more investment and where that would go with. And so there's been, there's these discussions are kind of ongoing, but with this Kraft thing, and this is very vague because there literally is no plan or project at this point, but just a point of awareness is that this may be coming up again, and there may be, more discussion in the future that the IDA would get pulled into regarding supporting potential projects, funding, like pathways for funding that we could support. And I know that's very vague because there's not much more to say, but other than that, with the Chobani announcement in Rome and with the state's other investments with with this, separation of Kraft Heinz and Pathfinder line, and there could be some opportunities there, and maybe some state support. And so hopefully we'll get more information and have, you know, if the IDA is gonna be asked to be involved, but I just wanted to bring an idea out there so that it was at least an initial awareness.
Right, they talked about, I know there was talk previously about some sort of like processing, for making milk shelfable. But in conversations with Giovanni and Kraft, it's discovered that there are as many ways to make milk shelfable as there are to put it in the refrigerator, and cream cheese would need one specific kind, and yogurt would need another specific kind, so how would you know what to do? So we're trying to find solutions to prevent that. And milk on its own is in the orders. Kraft also has an opportunity to expand in Wisconsin. And milk in Wisconsin is cheaper than it is in New York, but the financing side and the financial assistance side from the state, if they can do all that, that could potentially make them re-eligible for the federal funding. So those gap closures could then make overall, they can make Lava more attractive in Wisconsin. And they have to do their country stuff, so we really roll out of their credit for that, which, and they, so that worked out nicely too, so that's really all we know, we don't know what that looks like, but.
The subcommittee of the state came to the county and said, look, we're trying to allocate the money around, we have pinpointed Lewis County for that process for potentially a $50 million grant, but it could cost $80 million, so then the county would have to come with the IDA about potentially the gap, but it's really far out there, but it is being discussed.
And I think in that same meeting, another person from the state said. You are also eligible for other fund sources too. But possibly in addition to that $50 million, so even if the $50 million doesn't come about. There's still hope.
Hope that there's a.
Okay.
And not to go down too far. But right, so to Joanne's point, part of this is like, is there intermediary processing of the pulp that could be helpful to other area processors like Kraft and Johnny, not as like a new plant that would be competitor, but some sort of, you know, that could separate the milk into different components so that it could be boosted by these other, so you know, that's the sort of discussions, and then you know, this will be an interesting, you know, kind of naturally Lewis piece for the whole team, right? Because if there is a funding gap, and you know, the idea was floated about, you know, our ability to bond money for projects, LCDC is also legally able to bond money, so that's, you know, so I think it could be exciting and a nice, like, kind of why we have naturally Lewis to bring all the pieces together to say where does it make sense between the partners with LCDC and IDA and the county and stuff of where this could come from, and whose role is where, and who has the ability to bring in those different tools for the project, right? So that, you know, again, it's a lot of speculation at this point, but it's could be interesting. So we actually see progress both from the private sector side and state's interests.
The other piece is local milk producers, the Kraft is very aware that they want to do it so that they don't upset the relationship between local dairy and Giovanni, and because there's going to be a greater need for milk between the two facilities than there is, so we just want to be respectful of the fact that the Lewis County producers are right here, and we can't shut them down in the name of growth in the areas.
So hopefully that was helpful background, but we can move on.
We talked about McRae's. Do you want to talk about?
Yeah, lots of incentive projects in the pipeline right now, but Field Elementary, I'm just surprised we haven't seen an application from them yet. But Also Lions Falls Elementary, that ownership is shifting and very excited project, or. Yeah, project manager, hired the school, and he's very ready to jump into that, so we have a draft application, but I'm working with him to finalize the details on that, so we might have that in front of us for next month. AES, I'm told, is still kind of plugging their way forward, they have a new lead developer on that. But we just sat down with county planning, a couple days ago, and have kind of decided that our next step forward is to get those affected taxing jurisdictions together again and put a model in front of them. We had met with those affected taxing jurisdictions 2 or 3 times, really doing a visioning and really figuring out what kind of package would make sense for their community at the balance between pilot and post community agreements. So given their level of experience with these type of projects, I think the next step is to just put a model in front of them that we think solves the problems and get their buy-in on it. Which is really nice work to be doing, given that hydro storage spoke a little bit. Seems to have settled on the Grogan location as their preferred location for their project, so a lot of the same taxing jurisdictions. A lot of the same conversations, so kind of laying the groundwork with one, and we'll see which one fits first in terms of an actual project. And even just after this, we had a meeting with a wind project for Southern Lewis County. Which hadn't even been on our radar, even remotely. It seems like it could be real, I can bounce the developer off a previous developer who's moved on into a different role, and she's not sure how likely they are to get it to the finish line. But regardless, it's a possible, it's a 100 megawatt project that they're proposing, which is just a little bit smaller than number 3 wind, so a sizable project. And
Is that the Lewis Wind or whatever LLC?
yeah. So could be really cool for Southern Lewis County, and if these start to hit, really good for the IDA in terms of having some sustainable administrative fees coming in. Jefferson Energy, I don't think I've talked to this board much about, because it's been such a slow, like, there's an email like once every 4 months maybe. It's a energy storage project proposed for the town of Bray. At first it was lithium, and then it was some like dome storage. I'm not really sure where they're at, but they are in communication again with both planning and our staff, so I do want to keep it on the radar that they're looking around, could be potential. But here's the thing. On the Mandeville building, that's our building, I'm drafting an email to an engineering firm, hopefully get some buy-in on some engineering and project management, not only for that project, but for the LCDC's Lions Falls site beautification. Just given the timeline of my transition out, especially, and with our building, that's an engineering project. So I think Joey and I have spoken about it, and it makes sense to try to get somebody to project manage that, given the absence of a developer who's actually move forward with it. And they're kind of living at our heels to sign documents and move forward, so we've got to do something there.
And we talked to Joe about some different options related to that too. Which way you wanna go, because, you know, Cheyenne and I talked about this and talked to Joe, because it's such a niche building. If we get a developer and somebody else owns it, like that would be tricky, because if they rent it just to us, it would be hard, and then, but then do we wanna own it, so there's like. You know, pros and cons for both sides.
It's a classic kind of risk reward. If we own it, then it's our home, or naturally Lewis's home. It's when if we develop the other floors and find tenants, that's a revenue source, right? But the risk is on us to manage the project to be the owners, and if we don't find other tenants, we still need a space, so it's still us having the expenses to have a space versus renting or leasing something dollars earlier as we're doing now. If you turn it over to the developer, then we continue to have a landlord and are just a leasee of the space with. And it's in their hands what would be done with the rest of the space, so it's, it's that same thing we've been talking about for months or years with buildings, right, but. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, I think you just made a comment alluding to this, but we haven't had developers that are real excited about the space or really see where they can. Turn it into a project that they want, and so part of it is we have the DRI money, the building needs a lot of work in it, and a little more risk on our part, but it could be a very good reward in terms of creating that community space and having that downtown hub for our offices and different things that are gonna be. So.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, it's a little bit of practice what you preach. In terms of, and IDAs do these projects all the time.
So what does that get decided? What do we decide?
Basically very soon now, I mean, the DRI money is there.
Yeah.
And we need to be moving forward with there. There hasn't been, Brittany and Cheyenne had floated the idea that there's some developers, kind of tested the waters, and there's not a real, no one's real all about it.
I certainly don't want to get it makes so much more sense. Because we could, the idea that we probably would fund it up and would take it on. Or what's the contrary to that? We just say until we.
Well, the building, the money's there from the state, so, but the building, obviously needs a lot, just structurally. And the current owners aren't real interested, so.
In fixing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So.
So the question I've got is, if we didn't go to the developer and we took it on, we purchased it. Assuming we would still need to hire an engineering firm.
Yeah.
But we would also have like a construction management.
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah, and that's what's alluded to here, so
With the developer, we wouldn't incur that cost, they would incur it.
Yeah, if a developer, if we just signed everything over to a developer, they would purchase the building, they would do the project. With some input from us hopefully, but like,
Yeah.
we really wouldn't have a ton of control over that.
But I'm just trying to understand, I'm sorry, this isn't my, so I'm trying to understand how we get the opportunity to make a decision. We don't own the building.
So those you have the lease to it, you have the.
We have the
you have-
lease.
you have the right to purchase.
That really looks like the right to purchase.
Okay, so
Yeah.
either we
I
purchase.
signed something over during the DRI process that would allow IDAs, and the IDA has voted on moving forward with the purchase, we just haven't acted on it yet.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Right, and in terms of management, we don't have, our staff doesn't have the time or really. Management expertise to be the project manager. They're already gonna be living through a renovation, their office, trying to work through a renovation presumably, so the idea of. Contracting out the project management piece to make sure.
Yeah, my husband's a project manager and you need an actual project manager with that expertise because you're going to get someone that's. And then it'll cost you a fortune if you don't have someone with that expertise to do it.
So now from those, and move into camper. Find us on social media.
There'll be a
We're in
mobile
the house
office,
parking
you know,
lot
there's
today.
nothing wrong, do a mobile office, you hit each hamlet of the county for a month at a time.
I'm so on board for you guys to do that.
Thank you.
Because it could bring.
Yeah. You set it up and.
It's like a golf trip, but you leave it on wheels.
Yeah.
Yes.
You just set it up in the town parks in each of the.
Oh,
Yeah.
Let's not start our minds calls.
Those.
Alright,
It just, I'm sorry, you're not.
No, I'm, oh, do you want to go ahead?
so yeah,
I should come down.
sorry, and I didn't mean to confuse, like, to Cheyenne's point, we've already given initial approvals to say, yes, if the developer doesn't come along and, you know, we could move forward with this, I don't know if we can get any other action at this time, it's just.
No, it's
More
just
of an
talking
update.
to like another report this,
Yeah, and, but also that the DRI money is there and moving forward, so this is where the rubber meets the road with some of this is now that the funds are started. Moving.
And then I say with winter coming, we have the time to make these decisions and then, because nothing really, you know.
Alright,
And this is good, yeah, too.
just,
I can see project.
just one removal.
Everyone, Marty, what's my list? Yeah.
And just real quick before we switch over, Jenna.
Yeah.
I think read that, but if there's any comments. Said.
Megan was already started moving in, she came out the other day with a chair, she's like, can I drop this off? So she's in. And Kaylee's still here, right? Kaylee is, she's just off. So she's getting in. Oh, wonderful.
Didn't you that giant ring over here?
Well, yeah, well, I didn't know it was this weekend. No, one other comment, I did see this morning on social that Divine Catering is in the
Yes.
restaurant in the Portland Elementary, and we thought that was kind of a full circle, because when they first came, that was one of the components that was very exciting.
Yes.
But some of us go there on our way home from work to pick up food. Now a little disappointed.
Don't you think they'll still have like a takeout option?
I should hope so, because Marcus is getting scalped potatoes and ham tonight.
Yeah, that's really exciting though, and I love that they're like weaving the history of the area into the.
Yeah, we saw that, we're talking about it yesterday, and how we could kind of highlight,
Yeah.
that story as it continues to unfold.
Yeah.
Like they're doing what they said they were going to do. Yeah. It has
We
worked.
made grants contingent on them continuing to pick up options.
Rely on that.
They'll live into the recording.
Yes.
See what we can do. Anything else on?
Yeah, of course, that's.
Not beyond the ones falls, they're the ones, mine still come forward. What was later name? Joanne? I don't know.
Was that back to the, so there was with, well, last month or whatever, when actually Lewis was, doing their annual meeting, we had talked about Goggin, continuing that as the. Which is a little, I don't know if you ever found in the bylaws, it's a little weird because they have 3-year terms I think for Lewis, so my perception was when Goggin took the appointment last year, it was for 3 years, but then they asked for like an update on who the appointee would be at their annual meeting. Which I don't know if was really required or not, but anyways,
So it's the new kid.
from my perspective, it was, you know, Goggin was appointed to the board as the lead rep from the IDA, their 3-year terms that can be renewed by naturally listed bylaws, so. Unless you leave the IDA board or something else changes, then from my perspective.
They also currently be on the executive committee as a treasurer.
Oh. So,
It's kind of this fuzzy area because like the county appoints somebody to that board as well, but the county also could change what your, like, for Jessica's purposes, like what your committee assignments are or whatever at your annual meeting. So I think that was kind of,
Just making sure
but
that.
yeah, it was discussed a little bit at
It's a-
the Lewis's meeting, like, how does that communication from each of those boards come back to Naturally Lewis so that and at what timing, so like, it probably would make sense for the IDA's annual meeting for them to redesignate the Natalie Lewis appointee or something, even if it's the same person, just so that that information feeds.
I mean, my impression was that everyone on the Natural Lewis board was subject to the same term limits once they're on board, and so. But that's not our call, it's Natural Lewis is what in their bylaws say, but there
But it's
is.
also your call to appoint someone different from some choose.
Yeah, it's this fuzzy area of like. When somebody terms on the Natalie, if they're an appointee, do they actually term? It's something that needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, I think it's again, it's a Natural Lewis question, not for us. But, yeah. And other boards I'm on, if you're like if you're like an appointed member that isn't subject to the term limits and everything, then you're not a voting member. You're just invited like an advisor to the board. If you're a voting member, then you need to provide that terms, I think nonsense the government boards. But again, it's not our issue, it's natural, but that's why it was on there, because they had their update is in the fall for their annual update. It's a good question.
And we also talked about, sort of, you're the appointee, when we come back to these meetings, if you think we missed anything or elaborate anything, you should be allowed time to report on your perspective of what happened at the meetings and what's going on.
Sure.
As your annual meetings, absolutely. And we meet quarterly, right?
Next, we're changing that to 5 months ago.
But there was a meeting
There was a meeting
between the IDA September meeting and this meeting, that was.
I had suggested that being that Joanne is the link between all of these. She sent a report for all of them, about what's happening with everywhere, right, but she not only did she connect, she actually understood what's going on. So, but yeah, I think that's something that's a good idea.
Good on appointment.
Sorry, you go ahead, but anyways, every few years we like looked at timings and both day of the week and the time of the start of the meeting, and they used to be 8 o'clock, we pushed them to 8:15. There's always this balancing act, the earlier start, the earlier everyone gets out and can get on with their day jobs and everything else, but we've always had a bit of a conflict, and so I don't know if you guys want to do a formal survey, if you're still good with Thursdays, but at least, I think everyone's seen just in a straw poll of, pushing back to 8:30. Again, it might mean we get out of here 15 minutes later, but it also just, mornings are there's a lot going on with us to get kids to school and stuff like that, so.
Is there any possibility of changing it from Thursdays?
Yeah, that's an open point. If we're gonna do that, then I would suggest maybe we do like a poll, like email out a poll like you did a few years ago to get an idea, because we could sit here and hash out our calendars for the next 2 hours. Yeah, so maybe we send out a poll that's just, see if there's other people.
And my work, but they have changed the quarterly meeting to first Thursday, so that before I missed, and last time I made a big thing about people shouldn't be missing meetings, I had one of them.
Yeah.
So, but I can't miss that many work ones either.
Yeah.
So 8:30, but full for a day.
Maybe different day.
Yeah, if it's okay,
Folks are over here. Yeah, absolutely.
or it could be a Thursday, the second Thursday,
Right.
it's just, right.
And basically, we can define what works best for us, and we just have to change our public notice. So each month it's requested kind of date, but beyond that, it's what works really good. Yeah.
question for that. If we were to go to like the second or even the third. How would that impact financial reports? Would you get them from the month before?
The second or third week of the month.
Yeah. Or when do you?
Yeah, if it was like the third week of the month, for sure, I could have. Or, can have the month before that.
Just wondering how that would differ because.
Essentially, we having it a week earlier than we usually do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, there would be like one meeting where.
Either you might do it in 2 months, or you would do a meeting the first and another one the third and then.
The good thing about the farm being new, there won't be a change for that person because they're not gonna routine, right? It'll just create a routine.
Well, and we've had, you know, we've had a few times where we canceled our monthly meeting because there's really nothing pressing to approve on the agenda, so if we. Get in, we could go 6 weeks, if we did move the week to the month, we could, as long as there wasn't anything pressing to approve on the agenda, we could kind of go 6 weeks or whatever.
Well, we've been looking at the November one, it stated that a track what we might want may have the final phase.
Nice.
Okay, so
I mean,
giving,
And just my one final request, I would like to be.
No.
Before.
That's all. You could act as a guest speaker.
I'm not going to cross that boundary. I'm not, I will be respectful in my space, in your space. But we'll get to that in just a second.
You know, Jessica and I did the ABO training, because we were on the same call a few weeks ago. I don't know if anyone else has it.
Jerry has also done it, so that's just my reminder to call people out, call Goggin and Darlene and her.
I don't know like that.
The ABO online training,
Do I have like an email about it?
you do, we can resend.
I'll send you another one.
Please, yeah, I'm sorry.
There's one next Wednesday, it's online.
That's fine.
I'm doing it next Wednesday
Alright,
too.
how long?
They usually have it
Please.
this month.
So
It has to be live, but it's online.
when we onboard new board members, we're all supposed to go through it, but then it's like every three years, they like you to review what you know.
I had a conflict with the October one, but I didn't know where to go to find features. So-
Yes, they don't list them, they only list out like
That's-
few, and then you gotta go back and check.
Yeah, if you're ever curious about what the recording formats look like for the state, and then you go to that website, and you're like, oh. It's like painting that.
I tried.
You have to stay on the entire time, they
And you have to
roll
hold your
mouse at the very, very end, cause there were a couple people that left. And
Oh, yeah.
and I'm sure they literally, cause it's just them talking, doing nothing.
Is it interactive at all?
I mean,
It could be, yeah.
they you know, they say you can ask questions or type of chat, but.
Is it a video chat?
It's like a Zoom meeting, but
Yeah.
it's just this.
She kind of went through like,
Or-
I didn't know what to
Well, speaking of like, well, it was WebEx, which I haven't used in years.
I had done with it.
Yeah, yes.
What did you find it, like, any information, like a good reminder, or like?
How
valuable.
no, it was, I mean,
I sat through it live at the last IDA, academy.
there were certainly.
And there were points that I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, there were sections of it that were
So-
helpful, and then other sections, they were talking about the parents report. But there were a couple people, I think, that closed like the minute before because they thought it was over, because they were just chit chatting at the end and then they did the roll call.
And it's in the email that I saw, it said there was a roll call at the beginning and at the end, so if you don't read that fine print, you have to thank you.
Because they were chit chatting at the end, so I had thought they were over too, and then I heard the roll call, I was like, oh, good thing I didn't just stop silent.
I never talked about the coin.
Yeah, I actually saw them at a conference yesterday, and they seem really excited, they're gonna have a draft for us to look at tomorrow on our update with them. I think that's it, except that because the IDA sponsored it, they will be presenting to the IDA, but, I wanna put it on the table that we could invite LCBC and Natalie Lewis to sit in on that at the same
I think
time.
it's a great idea.
Could we, I like that idea, could we, could we? I'm just thinking about the space.
Yeah, we didn't.
Do it over there and like tell everyone else to come in at like 9 o'clock to.
You can do ours and-
Yeah, if we don't have a lot to review, we could just
Yeah,
do
just
our
set
meeting
a
quick
specific time.
and then. And then have the streets.
I could join and I literally think I'll be in the inner.
They have Wi-Fi
Calls and everything.
on the plane.
Some.
That's what you can watch the Zoom.
The problem from flying out of water, Tom, there's no Wi-Fi.
And that's what it's like now.
Yeah.
Alright, that's all.
Alright, anything else for?
We're going the third Thursday,
Okay.
is what we'll be on.
If there's nothing else, I'll take the motion to adjourn the meeting. Gavin, second. Mackenzie, all in favor? Alright, meeting adjourned, thank you.
They are propeller planes that we from water.
They're not.